Okay, Galit, if we can start.
Hello, Gail, and thank you for joining us.
Oh,
There's Gail.
It's good. Hey, Ariel. Great being here.
You made it, my friend. Thank you.
Miami traffic. Sorry.
So good morning, everybody. I understand we start. So I would like to congratulate all the organizers for organizing this wonderful seminar or webinar this morning. When we're talking, whenever we say that the youth are the future of all of us, it sounds sometimes like a cliche, but in fact, it's true. The truth. It's they're both. There are two aspects here that I see the significance of your work and the people that will speak here, what you're doing. One is that the youth are really the future of our society. And the other aspect is, in most cases, and you hear from stories of people that were saved, like organizations like yours and like people like you, is that most people, these are the years that they shape their personality, they shape their, whatever they're going to do with their lives. And when you, how to say, to catch them in this time of crisis and you put them back on track and you help them become who they are as adults, these are the most important years, the most significant years for them to be better people, better citizens, better members of the society, better people for themselves and better people for others. So I really want to bless you from the depth of my heart as a human being for contributing really to be people that are not only talking about good deeds, but really making our society better, thanks to everything that you're doing. These times that we passed in the last year, we cannot ignore it. This Corona time, on one hand, it was very bad, of course, for the health. And when it catches people that don't have the supporting environment to help them, it's even worse. I did talk in different forums that it did do some good things for us. It made us, being more attentive, more closer to our family, closer to our older members of the family. We call our parents and our grandparents more often to see what they need and really help them. We help a neighbor that we know that he's living alone. We knock on the door, see if he needs something. Maybe things that we thought in the past but never did. Actually, and now this whole Corona times made us more attentive to everybody and more, I think, more functioning as a community, as a close community. But when you come to think of youth that are in the streets, who is their environment? Who is their supporting environment? And that's why I think that this time is even stressing more the need for people like you and what you are doing. So I want to thank you really again. And I want to introduce very quickly, just to mention the speakers here. Of course, our moderator will introduce them. I want to, before I mention who is going to speak, I want to acknowledge that the State Senator of New York, David Carolici, is joining us here as in the audience. I want to thank him. And I want to thank all the speakers today from, now it became my hometown, Miami, Mr. Gail Nelson, the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Miami. From Israel, Mariuma, the one and only. She's really something. Mariuma Ben Yosef, she's the CEO of Shanti House, Israel. And from New York, we have Mr. Daniel Bonnet, is the director of the New Rochelle Community Action Partnership. And moderate, Mr. Mike Bobbitt, acting deputy commissioner for community development at the New York Department of Youth and Community and Development. Thank you very much, all of you, for partnering with us. Thank you again, my colleagues in the consulate in New York. And Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm introduction, and thank you very much to the consulate for organizing today's discussion and inviting me on behalf of DYC to participate. So I bring you greetings from Commissioner Bill Chong from New York City Department of Youth and Community Development, as well as from Mayor Bloomberg's office. We are delighted to participate in this event. And as you've well stated, this is a good moment to reflect on how we've had to adapt and contend with unusual circumstances. And I was able to speak briefly with the panelists just before we went live right now to talk about how the benefits of the technology is allowing us to converse and share some of our individual and local practices. So I'm looking forward to a really powerful discussion to unfold over this next hour. DYCD in the city of New York, as many of our audience will recognize, the city was very hard hit by coronavirus. At one point, New York City was seen as the epicenter of transmission of the coronavirus. We're very proud to note that the city and the state took dramatic steps and consistent steps to flatten the curve from the space of, let's say, about March, with the information on the ground and the need to dramatically adapt how we behaved and how we adapted services. Our agency, which works through local community-based organizations, was able to adapt very quickly on an array of fronts. We administer the social services programming at New York City Housing Authority buildings, as well as at several New York City school buildings. These cornerstone programs and beacon programs have been distributing thousands of meals daily, have also participated in grab and go meals throughout the spring and even the summer when schools were closed, low-income families and the children were still able to get healthy meals. We also work with the New York City Council and the administration of their local city council objectives. And through the food pantries throughout New York City, we're able to distribute hundreds of thousands of meals. DYCD itself adapted its monitoring practices in the way that it supports the providers, given their dramatic need to shift the way that they did business, holding biweekly and monthly meetings, not just for us to provide oversight of the contracts, but to allow peer-to-peer exchange, much in the way that I expect today's conversation will go, and having providers keep one another abreast of how they've adapted their approaches, what used to be group congregate meetings and in-person conversations, having to move to telephone conversations, Zoom meetings as we're conducting today, and kind of what has been working on the ground. DYCD has also hosted several virtual events to help young people stay connected, open mic sessions, music sessions, a Heroes Project, a recipe rescue, and adapting things we used to do in person, like our Step It Up dance programs, traditional dance, hip hop fusion, and using this technology so that youth would not feel so isolated during this time. Some of our signature events over the course of the year: April in being known as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, May being around Mother's Day, June being around Father's Day, events that we might have held in person, holding these events virtually to again allow our providers to convene and allow participants of our various programs opportunities to stay connected and to receive vital information as they could. So those are some of the ways that we've adapted and some of the ways that we've tried to support our providers throughout New York City. But it's my pleasure, just like the audience's pleasure, to get to hear from colleagues from around the world who have been facing some of the same circumstances and find out both about your existing programs, but also how you've adapted over this period and what, in your estimation, service deliveries are going to look like coming forward over the short term. So having taken the liberty of saying a little bit about DYC and what we do, I'd like to turn it over now to our panelists. And I'm going to ask first for each panelist to take about 5 minutes to introduce themselves, their work, their geographic jurisdiction, where they do their business, and tell us first a little bit about what service delivery would look like or has looked like during normal times. And then once you've had a chance to do that and everyone has been able to go, we can talk very squarely about coronavirus, the impact, how you adapted services, et cetera. So I'm going to first ask Gail Nelson, our CEO from Big Brothers Big Sister Miami. Why don't you please tell the audience about your work, your role?
Well, I'm so thankful to be here and with this privileged, esteemed panel as well. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Miami, since 1958, has provided and created and supported mutual trusting relationships, mentoring matches, as we call them, based on mutual trust and respect. And our service area is all of Miami-Dade County. And under normal circumstances, we provide a menu of mentoring options. We have our community-based mentoring program that matches, and all of the programs I'll mention briefly are fundamentally rooted and grounded in a caring adult being matched with a child, regardless of background, regardless of socioeconomic status. Many of our youth are at or near the poverty level here in Miami-Dade County. And so the community-based mentoring program, as stated earlier, is they meet twice a month face-to-face in the community. The big picks up the little, terms of endearment for us. The volunteer or the mentor picks up their mentee, and they spend quality time together, be it in the arts realm, be it in the cultural realm, be it going to athletic activities, spending quality time together. Another menu item is the school-based mentoring, where 1 hour a week, a volunteer big would go to the school and help their little with academic, providing academic assistance, homework assistance, and also building the friendship. That's the premise of everything. And our fastest growing program is called School to Work. We've heard the term corporate social responsibility. We have over 1,300 in Miami-Dade County, 1,300 high school students who are matched, and they visit their big in the corporate setting. They go to the office during the school day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And there's employability skills training. They have breakfast and lunch together. Then there's job shadowing. And what this has done, it has allowed these young people to get on a career pathway, and many of whom have been hired by those same corporate entities that have invested in mentoring. So that's the normal menu of options with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Miami. And I'm privileged to serve as the president and CEO.
Sorry, I muted. I try to avoid background noise. Thank you so much. Our next panelist is Mariuma Ben Yosef, the CEO of Shanti House Israel. So Mariuma, if you would again, under normal circumstances, share what does your organization provide?
So first of all, in Israel, we say Shana Tova. It's a new beginning for the new year in our country. I will tell you how it developed. It's not an organization that was planned to be an non-profit organization. It's something that I started, but not knowing what's really going to develop to be. I'm talking about an non-profit organization that's working 36 years. There's been more than 60,000 children in our place. They're divided to two groups, the ones that get help from the streets but don't really want to go to the streets and go back home, and the ones that are staying for long term. I'm talking about children at risk from all over the country, not from one city. I'm talking in the age of 14 till 21. This is something unique that you can come in the age of 14 to our places and stay 7 years. It's not something like a boarding school that you stay 4 years or 3 years or 3 months. The children that are coming from all levels of society. We have no politics in our place. You can believe in anything you want. We have no, it doesn't matter what you believe in, which race are you in, who you are from, what gender you are. It means that you are a God child and we need to help you because you chose life. The kids are from all over Israel, are from sex abuse, neglected by the parents, lonely, they didn't have any souls or families that they have where to go to, girls that got pregnant. The difference in our place that because I was like them, and it's an organization that developed from the needs of what we need in the streets. Because I was a street child and I knew what I needed and I didn't have, that's how it started to be. So it means that whatever I felt that I should have had, that's how the non-profit organization started. And it means that we have homes for them. one in Tel Aviv, one in a big village in the Negev. We're going to open in Jerusalem in 1 year from now. And it means also something for you to understand, even with the virus, the thing that we didn't get hurt from, and that's a good thing, that the whole homes are one home. It's like, you know, you have two homes that all the families together, Kabbalot Shabbat, Friday dinners, we go to holidays together. So what happens now, most of the times we are in the village. All the houses are becoming to be one in the village, and whatever we do, the treatment is going there. I'm talking about these children that have 24/7, 365 days a year homes. They can come if they choose life and they choose to help themselves from juvenile courts, from social workers, or from the streets. They are coming and they are getting help and all the needs that they need, like in your family. They are getting the security, the warmth, and the understanding that they can have a home for this time, for them to understand that they can choose life, build themselves again, and go back to society with humanity of themselves, with honoring themselves, because each one of them could have been the self-destruction zone. Each one of them could destroy themselves and the surrounding them because their parents didn't want them, but they choose differently, and we have to give them the power to keep on choosing like this, and this is the organization. I have to say that we work in the Shanti method that I developed, but we also do the 12 steps, again, drugs, alcohol, and violence. We have I believe in it very much. We do psychotherapics, we do horse ranch, we have water therapy, we have theater, music. I believe in the arts. I think the arts are one of the most important thing for teenagers to solve many of their problem and addiction. So many of the arts that I believe the music, the art, the sculpture, whatever you do, so it's something that you can lay on and be more healthy if you have something like this instead of drugs, alcohol, or violent, or whatever. We have special rules, no drugs, alcohol, and violence. We have separation between the boys and the girls. And I have to say that we are doing it for 36 years, and I don't think that we will stop. It's a train of life. I'm glad to say that we are 45 people that are doing it now in this time of our life in Israel. They chose to do it. And if you ask me what's the benefit of it, to help others is to help yourself. It's to go from the self-zone area and from the victimized area. And even if you are a victim and you decide to go and help others, you are becoming not a victim, you're becoming a winner of your life. And this is what they learn, this is what I learned through my life, and this is what all the group that works with me are doing, and we will keep on doing.
Thank you so much. Our third panelist is Daniel Bonnet. I was just remarking earlier, I've had the pleasure of interacting with his agency. We shared some conversations about poverty alleviation across the state. So I'm looking forward, as I am, to hearing from our panelists. Other panelists from Daniel Bonnet from Westcott. So Daniel, please tell us about your organization.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm the area director here for the New Rochelle Community Action Partnership. Westcott's a not-for-profit organization with several community action centers all over Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam County. New Rochelle was one of the hotspots that was hit with patient zero, as they called it, with the first COVID. And from that, it spread like wildfire. There were a lot of questions up in the air, but before COVID hit, the New Rochelle CAP and all our CAP sites, our goal is to making sure that we are helping people and changing lives. And that's one of our most important things, is working with the families in all aspects, primarily families that are considered low income, providing nutrition and wellness services from food pantries to soup kitchen, employment services, financial literacy, connection to benefits and resources, helping families and seniors navigate through systems that are in place, applying for TANF services, and a whole bunch of supportive and direct services that we provide to our families. At the New Rochelle CAP, primarily, we've been also tasked with working with a program called the WIOA program with the Workforce Innovative Opportunity Act. And that focuses on 16 to 24-year-olds at-risk youth. I mean, I can go a little bit further, but I know you would probably have some further questions. COVID-19 has really, it did a complete 180, 360 all around shift into our service delivery and the amount of individuals and families that we see now, now that the curve has significantly gone down, we still see the need and an increase of services across the board. Much of that unemployment is a big issue. Our educational resources and connecting with our families, from technology to just basic understanding, referrals to services across the board, primarily in the mental health division. So yeah, so at the New Rochelle Community Action at WestCOP, our goal is to empower the families to thrive and reach self-sufficiency and their full potential.
Thank you. And now that we've heard from all of our panelists, we're going to pivot squarely, as I suggested, to talking about coronavirus. So let's start with a very general question, which is, how has COVID-19 affected your organization and your work? And depending on your responses, we can let the conversation kind of take its own organic shape from there. And I'm not wedded to a particular format, but for the first one, we can go in the same order we started, and then we'll try to mix it up. So we'll start with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. How has COVID impacted your work?
I will say this, and thank you for the question. What I didn't mention earlier was we serve youth starting at age 5, and they can stay in our program up to age 25. And these are relationships for life. What I did not mention was the fact that one of our menu options includes law enforcement mentoring. Think about that in the age of COVID, because I think there's 2 infections I got to deal with. There's the infection of racism, and there's the infection of coronavirus. One does not discriminate, and one is clearly fundamentally rooted and grounded in discrimination. And so when I think about the hundreds of police officers in Miami-Dade County that have stepped up historically to mentor youth, we established that program in 2008 to build relationships based on mutual trust and respect. And now more than ever, in light of all the social challenges and issues, we continue to, because we've had people tell us, frankly, why would you all support the police? I said, because we support humanity. We stand against racism. You see my backdrop. We stand against any form of bigotry and hatred, but we stand for humanity. So how have we pivoted? We reinforce those things that work, but with crisis comes opportunity. And one of the things we did, we created an acronym. We call it the FACTS, F-A-C-T-S. And so when we recognize what our littles, I call our kids littles, so excuse the technical jargon, but I'll keep that consistent throughout. You all will pick up on the pattern later. But we recognize our littles needed some basic necessities. So the F stands for food. The A stands for access. So we do a food distribution every single week. The access, we gave our littles access to virtual programming as well, because certainly when everyone's being quarantined, we wanted to make sure they had access to various programs just beyond their big picking them up and spending time, which did not occur during this crisis. The C stands for connected. We wanted to make sure that our littles had the basic essentials to keep them connected. Most did not have devices. Many did not have internet access. The T stands for technology. Zoom is a buzzword around these parts and many other platforms as well. And then the S in the FACTS stands for support, that only a mentor can provide, supporting the family, supporting the little. And so 2 things we did with our pivot. All of my staff are working remotely. Essential staff are the finance and administration are in the office with me here in our building. We got a 46,000 square foot building here in Miami, just south of the airport. And so under normal circumstances, those littles would come here after school. They would come here and meet their bigs and go to the computer labs and do homework and the like. But during the COVID crisis, The pivot includes reinforce those things that work well, create efficiencies as well. I'm hearing myself in the background for some reason. I'm sorry. Okay, that's better. No worries. The create efficiencies, reinforce those things that work, but most importantly, take care of the basic needs for our families. Just yesterday, and the last thing I'll share for time's sake and out of respect, we had a food distribution with the Miami Dolphins. We gave away 2,000 meals, but we also had the NAACP on site for voter registration. We had one of our guests. She became a citizen of the United States of America on Monday. She registered to vote on Tuesday and went home with food. That's what I'll call a good day.
That's really fantastic. Please, we'll continue down the line with our second panelist. Mariama, how has coronavirus impacted your organization and your work?
We have a different model, and the different model is, I think it's like a startup in a way, because, you know, when I understood that if you don't have a family and you are living in the streets and you're eating from the streets, or you cannot be in other institutions because you don't feel attached and you want still to save your life, you need to develop something. And the model of the Shanty House, it's a home with all the facilities that you have. The kids are coming and they get everything that you have like in your own home. And I think one of the biggest things that happened in this time of virus, that because people couldn't go out and more of them were at home, as you know, there became lots of violence in families, and many of the kids were running away to the streets. And there were more and more kids that came to Bet Shanty House. And we had to put mattresses, we had to change all the way. We did it before, but the situation was that you are dealing with more and more kids because also of the media and whatever happened with the media that showed you so much what's happening. So the fear and not knowing how to cope, and suddenly the social workers are not open, you know, because they have to stay at home. So you are coming from the phone and they're coming without social workers. We are used to it, but still the amount of kids are much more bigger than it was. The other situation, I think that it's really a problem because we are a nonprofit organization. 25% of it is from the government, but the 75% usually was from evenings in United States. It was from making things for our organization in Israel, and suddenly you don't have anything, and you have to rebuild yourself and to think again and again how you will make yourself to people to donate. We have amazing donors that stay for 20 and 24 years, but still we have 50% of it to raise. And we give all the facilities. It means electricity, medicine equipment, school equipment, food, shelter, therapies. So we are connected with them 24/7, like a father and mother, but many fathers and mothers. So what happened was that we had to understand that we have also in the surviving area to think all over again and to see what can we do as an nonprofit organization that leaves many of its percentages from donations. The third thing, I think, it's the fact that all the communication made many children that never before had the courage to go out and ask for help. In this time, something happened and they are trying to get help more. And it means that the more they closed everybody in, the more the things came out, the more it's like an opposite, you know, it's like a catch-22 in a way. And we are dealing with it 24/7 in our organization. And I think what's amazing to say, and I want to say a good thing, you know, everything I want to say in the end, good. To see Jews, Muslim, and Christian staying in our organization without connection to politics, without connection to what you believe in, are surviving and choosing in this time that are so neglected to be together as one and helping each other, and we are helping them. You know, we can say many bad things about this virus, and nothing is for certain, and we don't know what will happen, but something special happens, something that you go inside and you see the good of the things that can happen. And we have to, that's what I think we should do. We should find a way to take this virus and make it like a magic pill for us, and not like a destruction thing, you know? So this is something that I wanted to say, but the surviving is very hard. And this is something I think that all of us in this group probably will agree with me.
Very powerful again.
Thank you.
And our third panelist, Daniel, the same question. How has coronavirus impacted your organization and its work?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you know, New Rochelle being the epicenter of the patient zero, normally, I would give you an example just to put things into perspective. Normally, the New Rochelle cap was, if we look at the food distribution aspect, before COVID, we were distributing to about 190 to 200 participants, individuals that include adults, senior citizens, and families. That's about 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of food. When COVID struck, our output increased to between 25,000 to 35,000 of pounds of food on a weekly basis, with a maximum amount of number that we've had of close to 18,000 individuals that include children, senior citizens, and family. Just to put things into perspective, one of the things that was really impactful here was the perception of the National Guard. So we were assigned the National Guard based here. These are individuals from New York State, part of the Army, in full Army uniform. And the notion was that there was going to be tanks and barricades and soldiers with guns and a martial law in place, and that was definitely not the case. But it was a remarkable thing to see when we started seeing an increase of individuals coming to our pantry for food services. It was an amazing story. There was a lady from Guatemala that showed up to the door, and she saw these individuals in uniform, and she stopped, and she literally, you can see her face flush, panicked, scared. And the first thing I approached her and I said, what's going on? And she said, they're soldiers. They're soldiers. They're gonna probably take me, or they're gonna do some harm. I don't know. And I asked her what's going on. And long story short, in her country, unfortunately, many of the soldiers are not there to help. They are there to inflict fear. They're there to unfortunately do harm to women and children. And to see the soldier pass along a bag to a woman who was so in fear was the most heartwarming thing I ever saw. And then she said to me, it was her first time ever in years that a person in a officer type of uniform has actually helped her than doing harm. So that right there was impactful across the board, that there was a whole new perception that was being created. And similar to what Mirama said, COVID, as difficult as many lives were lost, a battle with an invisible enemy, it has actually forced organizations such as the New Rochelle CAP and my colleagues across New Rochelle to collaborate and to share resources. I can't tell you enough how efficient and how a force of collaboration that it happened. You know, my partners, New Rochelle Municipal Housing, Feeding Westchester, which is a major food bank, the Boys and Girls Club of New Rochelle, New Rochelle Public Library, all of these entities, the school district coming together and sharing resources. That is something that for a non-for-profit here is so difficult, because we always think about the numbers, right? We're talking about the quantitative numbers of, I can't send you clients over there because then they're not going to come over here and so forth. But this forced us as an organization to really look at the playing field and say, we need to work together for the families. And it brought us back to a humanistic outlook of supporting the families. and supporting the children, providing meals from the school district, providing services and helping English-speaking, non-English-speaking individuals and navigate of how to request technology from the school district, support, guiding them from internet services. So if we fast forward a little bit into where we are now with COVID still being around, but the decrease of it, we have seen an increase of the unemployment. We have seen an increase in families behind in rental arrears. So the New Rochelle CAP had to really, we never shut down. Staff were coming in every day, sometimes even weekends. And now in a community open concept, we had to change that to an appointment basis, working with families in a very social distancing, face shields and plexiglass and so forth. But it really forced us to continue to provide the work, to work with organizations to, let's say a family were behind 4 months of rent because everybody in the house was unemployed. We're able to help facilitate and find the resources to pay rent from our organization, part organizations such as the Bridge from Westchester Residential Opportunity, just all of us working together. And it has been a remarkable thing to even foundations and donors really saying, what else can we do? What else can we do to support you and to support the work? And one of the most craziest thing, and I'll finish up with this, and I'll bring it back to the youth part. There's a big sense of fear within the families of what is my child going to do? So New Rochelle decided to go remote learning until about November, but there was about 600 families within our city with the lack of internet services, because for many, like electricity, it is not an essential utility that you need. But COVID hit us in a way where it was now essential to have this type of service. So mothers were using their smartphones and giving them to their kid. And imagine an elementary school kid trying to look at their teacher. So organizations and got together. The New Rochelle Public Library worked with a foundation to obtain hotspots to support families, to really connect them with the resources. And we converted our center, along with other agencies around New Rochelle, to learning hubs to provide that service of, number one, not a child care mentality, because child care is another issue that is still prominent here in New York across the board, but really helping families navigate. And if the family can thrive in whatever way we can support, the child will thrive, especially during these hard times.
Thank you so much. Each of the panelists, you've pointed to so many relevant issues, and I think there's a natural instinct to start with some of the basic academic, like operationally, how did you shift and how did you adapt to providing services under this climate? But as I look at the time, with so many things that we want to talk about in a short period of time, I want to leap ahead to some of these, in some ways, larger issues. And one of the threads that I believe I've heard across all three of your remarks, to me, relates to equity. Conversations about how the pandemic, which you've each lifted up, is how the pandemic has, I think, Gail, you pointed to, necessity being a time of creativity, and you referenced law enforcement. And then Daniel, you also reference law enforcement by referencing National Guard. And Mariam, when you were talking about having people of different faiths put politics aside, recognize common interests and work together. So I'm interested, if the panelists, if you want to share, and you didn't have a chance to before, really in any order, some of the new institutional relationships or organic relationships that you've been able to create, both to have your organization be more effective, and then certainly, given what our panel is about right now, things that have helped directly impact the youth that you're serving, something new or something different or something that's been unblocked. Finally, maybe you've been working on for a long time that's finally happening. That would be very great to hear more about.
Well, Mike, one of the things we've done, 9 out of the 10 children we serve in Miami are children of color. And I love what Daniel mentioned about authority figures being seen as allies, being seen as resources and not threats. And so that when we all embrace humanity from a collaborative standpoint, we've executed an MOU, a memorandum of agreement, with the historically Black College University in town, Florida Memorial University. I just executed yesterday an MOU with the NAACP to get more mentors of color involved in our relationship space. We talk about first responders. Well, big brothers, big sisters, we're first responders in the relationship business in terms of providing matches since 1903. I mean, so when you think about that, and I've shared with my colleagues across the nation, and that we don't want to be that taxi in an Uber world. When you say you're the oldest and doing something, that does not always go well. So we needed to pivot. So we have virtual mentoring now. We allow folks to sign up to become a big, and they can mentor with the expectation that one day they will see each other in person. But it's allowed us to engage more people. It's allowed us to engage. I did a presentation with 500 police officers. The Miami-Dade County School Police Department, public school police department, the largest police department, school police department in the United States. It's allowed us to work with our friends at the Israeli consulate in Miami. They're going to do a delegation when we talk about just really teaching our kids diplomacy. I said delegation, diplomacy workshops. And so imagine words like de-escalation, first responders, teaching our kids to de-escalate any situation. And so those are a few quick pivots that we've implemented since COVID. And I gave you all the wrong T. And the T in facts, it wasn't technology, it's transportation. My staff had to remind me of that. We deliver things to our families because connectivity dealt with technology, but the T, update your notes, please. I see Daniel doing it. T is transportation. We meet our families where they are. Just the facts, sir.
That's great. Miriam, did you want to add on to that?
I think what happened to me and our organization in this time, it's first of all, few things. For us to move the children from Tel Aviv to the Negev, to the south of Israel, and to be more than 100 kids all together in the same place, all connected, it's not something easy, but it makes us more developed the way we want to know how to develop the way of method of treatment, that there will be togetherness, no violent, and to see how we work with many methods, or not only in Zoom, also together as a family, and to see what we develop with so many new generation of teenagers. Because when you are in two different places, you meet for Friday dinners, it's not the same that you are staying every single day for a few weeks and learning about one another. And a few things that were important for us to give out is, you know, that I speak about it in this last few days, that we are so becoming such a technologic humanity that we're forgetting our heart. And sometimes you have to shut down the telephones. You have to understand how you don't work with anybody except yourself, with the community that you are developing to be better people, to know values in a different way, because the values usually you learn already now from Facebook or from Instagram, and to work in that time with so many children, it's something that is very, very important. This is the first thing. The second thing, we're developing more workshops to see how it works when the children have no school or they have no transportation, and you have to understand how you do these things. You are developing new things, and the new things is to know how to do workshops with them, not only with the horse ranch or with arts, more develop the 12 steps, more doing things for them, not to go and feeling depression or the feeling sad, because, you know, many of this situation make you feel more alone in the life, feel more loneliness. The depression is much more bigger, and you have to cope with this. So they will not think about death, or they will think about it as a good thing and not a bad thing, and what will go out good of it. So we are doing many things for them to develop themselves as people, small people that develop to be leaders of themselves in this situation, because this situation in the world is not an easy situation. So they cook, they make the laundry, they are cleaning, they are doing all the, the agriculture there. And I think the hardest thing for me to say to you, it's amazing, the Zoom and the connection, like now it's a small world, but it's not, I don't see the eyes. I don't feel the human, the human race is an amazing thing, we are learning something, the mask is not only on the face, it's also surrounding us. So this is not easy for me as a human being, and also, doing the stuff and the surviving, but this is what we have to cope with, and this is what we'll cope with.
You hit on, oh, yes. please.
I just want to say something that Marioma didn't say, but you should know. When she says we're going to take them to the Negev, the first one, Shanti house, is in Tel Aviv, but the second that they built in the Negev, it means in the middle of the desert. This is where so they are isolated. It's not just going to another house in another city. Marioma, maybe you should refer to that, because when you it's very special that.
Yeah. I am glad to say that we opened this village, Shanti village, in the desert. It's near Ben Gurion grave, and Peres was, he was the president of Israel, and he opened this village for us. And I'm very honored that we had the ability to take the desert and to make it alive. And next 1 year from now, it will be also Jerusalem. And God bless him for giving us the power to keep on helping more and more souls.
Thank you for the additional clarification about that. It's important for the audience to get the full context there. And there's so much other stuff that you just open up right now. One of the things I was really struck by when you referenced social media and young people either deriving their values or believing that they're deriving their values from social media. So we're using technology right now to connect and have this conversation, but we're all adults. So we had the benefit of a childhood where we weren't so reliant on the technology before we got here. How are you contending with both the need to use technology to some extent to interact with your youth, and also some of the, I won't say that the downside, but some of the shortcomings that not having human connection makes available. So I mean, you spoke a little about that. I'm interested to hear from the other panelists about it. And if time allows, I have a probe related to that too.
For the Nourishell CAP, it's for our youth program, like for example, our workforce development program. It still is very difficult trying to engage at-risk youth with minimal resources, where we're told to do everything remote and use FaceTime or Facebook Messenger or Zoom. It was difficult. It was difficult in the sense of trying to engage and grab these students to just be attentive to meeting with their case manager, to meeting with staff, because I think all these organizations on here, that human connection and that trust building, especially with youth, is so important. That adult and youth relationship is important, especially, again, when we talk about not-for-profits, when you have grants where they want you to continue to recruit young people, to build that rapport, to build that trust on a virtual setting. It's really tough. It's really tough. And what we're seeing now also on the back end too, is these students that are doing their remote learning too, and I'll bring this on too, is that we're seeing now this whole concept of one of our students who's in high school said, I think there's this new thing called Zoom bullying. And now we're seeing this whole virtual bullying aspect where kids are being more hiding behind the camera type of thing, and able to insult another kid and make fun of, because they know that, I don't got to see this kid, in person, so I can just say what I need to say. And that's another concept. And I have a lot of families also asking for mental health services, coping with COVID-19, coping with the loss of of a family member because of COVID-19, the anxiety of being in school, depression that kicks in of kids not being able to be out and socialize, that social interaction with their peers at school. There's a whole social emotional learning that happens at a school setting, and now you're sitting behind the screen. Students that are considered with a disability or having an IEP, an individual education plan, they're having a very difficult time, and families as well, doing these remote learnings and virtual learning concepts. It's been very hard for a lot of families, and adults are trying to cope with it as well. And how, when you begin that stressors that starts from your father and mother, it trickles down, anxiety, and then you top it all off with food insecurity or unemployment and health issues. It really creates a vicious cycle within a household that can go south.
Yes, Gail, you wanted to build on that?
Just one comment on what Daniel said, which is so on point. A lot of the kids that we serve in Miami, and I'm sure this is the case across the country, they are embarrassed by their home environment, sadly. And the home environment is very challenging. And so now you put a camera. It's not a nice white bookcase with the latest book that I'm reading behind them. It's now my uncle that's on the couch and everybody, the 10 people living in the home. So, and now you call that a learning environment? And no shot at any school district, but it is the playing field. You talk to equity, Mike, it's not level. So now COVID, I can't go outside. Now you're in my living room, if you want to call it that. So the harsh reality of what our kids and families are dealing with right now cannot be understated.
Miriam, you seem like you wanted to say something too.
She's muted.
Unmute yourself.
I'm saying that they are so right. It's not only this. This is, I know I'm laughing because I have to say, it's worse in a way, because this is one of the strongest points that you said, both of you, but it's also the fact that it's not only that the environment of the house when you study, sometimes you cannot concentrate. You are in a pressure. You have sometimes parents that are not really into what you do or give you the strength to keep on doing it in a different time or a different zone or in different. So it's much more than it's bigger than the uncle that's sitting in the sofa. Sometimes you have to cope with so much pressure of fearness in the family, or from sex abuse in the family, or from economic situation in the family, and suddenly you have to study, or you have to be near the computer, and like everything is okay. So you're building a new surviving area that you don't know what to do with it. So it's much more even, I'm agreeing with them, and I think the problem is much bigger, and the results will be afterwards, and we have to be ready for what will happen after the epidemic, because I think people talk about it. People talk about that you do the medicine. I don't know how you say it, but you know the medicine for the virus.
Oh, the vaccine.
The vaccine, but it's much more than the vaccine. It's the vaccine for the physical, for the soul, and for the children, and for bigger children, as we say. I don't think people think, because they're thinking now, let's be alive. But their life should be also on working on the children that are like they're speaking, like I'm speaking. What will be the results in few months of now if we will not do as governments and in all the cities? It will make each one of us understanding what will happen in the future, because these children and these souls that we are all work with, this is the future of our world. So if we don't take care of this, what will happen? Because so we will be alive, but our soul can be dead, in a way, because we don't know how to cope with the things, the new life that we have. So I think this is the closure that I have to say to these two amazing people that spoke right now.
Yes, you've again covered so much and opened up so much, and I'm nervous as I look at the time, because I know unfortunately we're running out of time. But I'll take the prerogative just to share one thing. Yes, in the city of New York, when we meet with our providers, some of the things that you've touched on are conversations that we've tried to elevate, and I mentioned peer sharing earlier. So during this time of isolation or forced isolation, these equity conversations also concern, well, who's in the home? And what is the sense of safety around the home? And really with the interventions, first of all, before the pandemic, what was the depth of the intervention that whoever was conducting it would have known to be able to surface these issues? And now when you're trying to telework or however it is you're trying to engage, how do you know and how do you actually intervene when you're asking people, well, it's safe at home, stay home. And if it doesn't feel like it's safe at home, or you feel embarrassed while you are home, being asked to stay at home. And it's one of the reasons why we've tried to create new programming and channels too, to try to create other channels for interaction, given that's what the current environment has been. So I need to find out the rules of engagement, because I see it's 1 minute before noon. I think we're supposed to end on time, but if they give us extra time, I have other questions. I have to defer to the host on that though. All right, no one's saying anything, so I'm going to ask one. Maybe I can get away with one more question. So talk a little bit about myth busting, because when I was getting ready for the panel, I had some colleagues say, well, how do you interact with young people who may think, well, masking is not that important, spatial distancing, this is all a conspiracy thing, or people saying, well, the virus is man-made, as if the origin of the virus would in any way impact their need to be safe. So could you talk a little bit about different kinds of myths that you've had to try to bust when you're doing your interventions with youth?
My dear sister from Shanti House made mention of the fact that let's remove politics and focus on the souls. And we've had littles and their families that have contracted COVID. We've had littles who lost loved ones. I've had some of my staff get sick. So when we remove politics and really look at embrace humanity, and as I think about what we're doing today in collaboration, and one other myth that preceded COVID, don't underestimate our young people and their talent and ability. I ran a boys' school for all juvenile delinquents, if you will, but we called them students. So we changed the narrative and the messaging right away. So you're not an inmate, you're a young man who made mistakes, but you're not a mistake. And so as the subtle bigotry of diminished expectations, let's stop underestimating our kids. Let's look at everybody as a soul and recognize that we live in a very divisive, time right now. And regardless of your politics, regardless of your organization, regardless of your beliefs, as a Christian man, I am thankful to have the opportunity to embrace humanity with great people like that are on this panel today. And so my advice to everyone is the cost of doing nothing is far too high. Stay away from the myths and focus on the truth of potential and inspiring potential within all of our kids.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree with what Mr. Nelson is saying. Absolutely. It's really difficult in this time as well, when you have the news media sometimes play out. And again, with social media and everything going remote, kids are watching. They're watching everything that's going on. However, it's each agency, each organization has rules that need to be followed, and unfortunately, we want to help, and you get the stubborn ones, a few of them here and there, and it's just I always tell my young people all the time, I will give 100% of my time. The team here gives 100% of my time, and if you just don't want to give me 100%, give me 30%. We have 100 other students that do. And what happens is that creates a kind of domino effect of like, wow, okay, they're being helped, or my friends are being helped, or my colleagues are being helped, or they're getting this and that. I let me be a part of it. And young people want to be a part. They want to be a part, especially when they're being heard. And that's the most important thing, is just giving them a platform, giving them a voice. Not only with COVID, but with everything, with the Black Lives Matter movement, we had an incident here in our city of a young man with a police officer. You know, we rallied together, had a vigil and a march here in New Rochelle. And, you know, 2020 has been a really rough year, really rough year. But I got to give props to, I believe, Ariel, who said a comment. If we're talking about organizations within our local communities working together, I mean, look what's being created now. International community organizations really having the dialogue, regardless of religion and race and location, is the most important thing to really bring back the love and a humanistic aspect of continuing to empower our young people, continue to empower our families. And COVID hit us hard, but I think we have to turn this around and look at the light at the end of the tunnel and continue with that momentum to unify resources, partners, families, children, and really have that type of dialogues on a consistent basis so that we can check even ourselves as leaders within our community to remember why we do what we do. Believe me, we're not millionaires, but we're here because we love what we do. We love children, our families, our communities, and I'm so honored to be here with all of you. So forget about the myths. Let's keep pushing hard, do what we need to do, and unify our hearts, our families, and cultures.
I will be very short because, you know, I don't think we have much time. I do want to say that through all humanity history, we have many challenges, we had many diseases, we had many things that made us understand what we have to challenge, how to be better people. I think one of the most amazing human beings that I learned from was Gandhi, that said, well, let's make the change in us and outside. And I see this group as doers here. We are all doers, you know, and the doing is to be more humble, to take this advice and to see what comes from our inside and how to be better people for ourselves and for society. I think to keep on learning how to give others and how to see that we can be more humanity together, human as people together in this situation, it's much more stronger. And I think that what's most amazing is to know how to take this challenges that we have now in the world, and to see what's good comes of it and not what will be worse out of it. So if I have to close, what I have to say, I don't listen to mythos. I'm just doing the things to make the change in my small world, like a microcosmos, then it's become bigger and bigger. And I think each one of us is doing it. And that's what's most important. If people listen to us now in Facebook or are listening, you know, are attached to this, they should know that, you know, if we do small things, good things, it becomes a big thing, you know, and that's what we should do, I think. So I think that I have to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to speak and to be with this all of you amazing people. And this is an honor for me, and thank you very much for this hour.
Yes, I think we could keep going, but I know we've already been given the grace of extra time. I want to thank all of our panelists, and I want to thank our host for allowing me to moderate this discussion. You really can't do a better job than wrapping up with someone referencing Gandhi. So I think that's a very natural and organic position to close out for this part of the session. But I will say I do look forward to interacting with my panelists in the future. We've got to have you come speak to some of our providers in New York City, and I hope the audience has benefited as I have from getting to spend this time with you just now.
And I invite you all, if you're ever around New York, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll be doing the same.
Come to Israel to visit me there.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you, everyone. In the name of the Israeli Consulate in New York, and of course, the Israeli Consulate in Miami, we really want again to say so many thank you for everyone, especially our participants and panelists that listen to these important lessons from both sides. And that's an important time to learn the lessons and hoping at the end also to engage and to act together during Corona and after Corona. I want again to say thank you to Big Brother Big Sister Miami, to Gail Nelson, the CEO. I want to say thank you to Mariuma Ben Yosef, that we're working for a long time with her and imagining this program, the CEO, of course, of the Shanti House in Israel. I want to say thank you to my dear friend Daniel Bonnet, the director of the New Rochelle Community Action Partnership of West Cop. And of course, to our amazing moderator. We have the honor to work with New York City in many levels and hoping this will be another level as well. Mike Bobbitt, the acting deputy commissioner for the community development at the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development. Thank you. From our side, we will wish all of you Shana Tova as well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, תודה, אתם מהממות. אני אומרת את זה בעברית, גם מותר לי. Thank you so much. I said in Hebrew to them that they're amazing, these women. That's what I said.
Eddie, you want to say bye?
Great, and thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for our staff in New York and Miami. Also Miriam and Ariel, thank you for arranging it. And it was a pleasure meeting all of you. It was a fascinating hour. I wish it could continue another hour.
Likewise. Hopefully next year, post-pandemic. Yes.
See you in Miami or Israel.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Happy New Year. Thank you.